cricket fans, and welcome to the Bharat Army IPL 2020 Big Preview Show. I can't believe it. The IPL is almost here, finally. I feel like I've been waiting the longest I ever have, and I think it will be worth the wait. I know all the guests joining me today, they're buzzing as well for the return, so let me introduce everyone. First up, we have Abhishek from London. How's it going, Abhishek?
Hey Isha, all good. Just as you said, very excited that the IPL is now upon us. We get to see some Indian players playing. So yeah, buzzing, can't wait.
Right? The anticipation is real. And Naresh, hello, how's it going?
Hey, Isha. Going okay? Yeah, it's good to have IPL back after a long time. Yeah, waited for
Yeah.
long.
We also have Meher, who's from Mumbai. What's up, Meher?
Hey Isha, thanks for having me. So really excited that the IPL is finally happening.
Yeah, me too. And lastly, we have Akshay from London. How's it going, Akshay?
Yeah, doing really, really good. I personally think this is going to be the most closely contested IPL we've ever seen. So can't wait for it to start.
Me neither. And we have so much to get through. So what we're going to do is go ahead and preview every single team. And then at the end, I want to hear who you think is going to win and where the teams are all going to finish. So let's jump straight into it. So let's start with the defending champions, Mumbai Indians. They've made some exciting additions in the IPL auction. So they took Trent Boult, they took Shafane Rutherford from Delhi, and they also acquired Chris Lynn and Nathan Coulter. So Lasik Malinga, he obviously pulled out in the last minute, but he was like a pillar of strength for the Mumbai Indians. So he'll definitely be missed, but they've made a really good replacement for him in Australian speedster James Pattinson. So, I mean, before their additions, I would say they had a really, really, really strong squad and they had depth in all departments. So, Naresh, speaking of that, I'm going to come to you now. Now, what do you think their batting strengths are?
I think it's a well-rounded team, first and foremost. They bat well up to number 7. You know, if you see Hardik Pandya, Krunal Pandya, Karan Pollard going up to 7. So, and Rohit Sharma and Deepak on the top stable with Ishan Kishan and Surya Kumar Yadav. So, I think it's a very well-established team. They are defending champions. Unfortunately, their record in UAE is very poor, but that's way long back in 2014 when half of the IPL was in UAE. They didn't win a single game. But yeah, Rohit Sharma has come a long way since then. The entire team is now very, very stable. And Pollard last week lifted the CPL, so he's on a high. Rather, he even bowled in the finals. You know, he bowled an entire spell of 4 overs and took 4 wickets. So Pollard, Hardik Pandya, these are big impact players. And that's what we see in IPL. The big impact players make a difference. So Mumbai Indians, yeah, not a good record, but that's 6 years back. Very much in the reckoning. And as Malinga won't be there, but I think Trent Boult and Pattinson, those replacements would definitely fill in very well.
Yeah, and I guess Pollard, he'll be hoping he can keep up the momentum going into the IPL, which would be really valuable for the team. Now, what about their bowling strengths in particular? What do you think about
that? They could have variety up to 7 bowlers they can bowl in a game. You know? So you have Pandya brothers, definitely with the Krunal bowling left arm spin. You have Rahul Chahar bowling leg spin. Obviously, Hardik Pandya and Pollard come in the middle. Bumrah, definitely probably the most important bowler in any form of cricket. So you have Bumrah and Trent Boult, and if you take Pattinson or Cottonelle coming into the side. So a variety is there of 7 bowlers they can play. And most important is that as the tournament goes on, spin will play an important role. So, so that's going to be one of the main things, and most important, variety of pace, which Hardik Pandya and Pollard will get in.
Agreed.
So a very well-rounded team from batting as well as, and honestly, in a 20-over game, if you bat beyond 7, means you have struggled. So if you have Hardik Pandya and Pollard around that 6-7 mark, I think you'll always get a good score.
Agreed. The balance is enormous. The balance in their team is something that can really take them forward, I think. And Meher, so Naresh has mentioned a few key players there. Now, in your opinion, who would you say are the top key players for Mumbai Indians?
For me, it would be the Pandya brothers and the skipper. So basically, because I think Rohit Sharma will obviously open with Quinton de Kock, because they have a problem of plenty because of Chris Lynn coming into the side. But still, I feel Rohit Sharma will open right from the start. So I think he will lead from the front as defending champions. He knows what to do. He has clarity in his mind. So I think Rohit Sharma is definitely one key player. Jasprit Bumrah, I feel any team would be lucky to have someone like Jasprit Bumrah, just not in the start, but also the death overs. So his pace variations, all of that come in really handy. And as I mentioned earlier, the Pandya brothers, they are game changers. So whenever you have a problem where you're stuck at a particular phase of the innings, I feel Pandya brothers will come in handy. Hardik Pandya with his hitting abilities, Krunal Pandya with his anchoring abilities.
Agreed. So we've touched upon a lot of their strengths. Now we're going to talk about their weaknesses. So Meher, in your opinion, what are the problem areas for Mumbai Indians?
In terms of the conditions, as Naresh mentioned, that I think Mumbai Indians has a bit of a problem in UAE, but obviously the year has changed, the squad has slightly changed, but Mumbai Indians will definitely miss Lasith Malinga because of his variations. And additionally, I also feel that Mumbai Indians is pace dominated rather than spin dominated as compared to other teams, because we have the likes of Jasprit Bumrah and Trent Bolt, who would have done really well in conditions in India. But obviously, because of the shift, I think they will have to adjust accordingly.
Interesting. Okay, well, now we're going to move on to the second most successful franchise in the IPL with 3 titles. So Chennai Super Kings, the experience that CSK have in the squad, it's unmatched. And I actually remember the general narrative going into the 2018 season. It was, they're an aging squad. And I remember at work, we did like a pre-IPL prediction. I was the only one that predicted they would win. No one else had faith in them. And you know what? The past 2 seasons, they've had successful seasons. Even last year was really, really impressive. And they kind of just showed us that they're the kings of consistency. So finishing as runners-up, but then going to this season, I mean, Harbhajan definitely played an instrumental role in helping them reach the final last year. He got 16 wickets in 11 matches. But this year, they are without him. They're without Suresh Raina. So, Akshay, bearing that in mind, what do you think their batting strengths are going into the season?
Well, I think first of all, you made a good point at the start about their ageing team. And last year, I was like, I think it was your colleagues you mentioned, they completely wrote them off. I thought they're too old. All of their players are either retired or they're on the verge of retiring. But they did really, really well. So they surprised me. This year, they're now a year older. So I'm gonna stick with my guns again in that. I just think that looking down at their squad, T20 is a game for athletes. It's a game for young people. All of their players are literally on the verge of retiring or have already retired. I know it was the same case last year and they did well, but their 37-year-olds are now 38-year-olds. So that reaction speed of seeing the ball, Jasprit Bumrah bouncer, for example, will be a millisecond later than it was last year. So I do worry for CSK this year. I look at their batting lineup. If I just talk through Duplessis on the verge of retiring, Watson already retired, Murali Vijay, he hasn't played in the national team for 3 years. Rayudu, good player but retired. MSD, again sadly retired. Kedar Jadhav on the verge of retiring. Dwayne Bravo about to retire. So there's a long list of players that are well into their 30s now. So I do think if you compare that batting lineup to other lineups, it's not as strong. I know it's a controversial opinion because CSK are so successful and they've been successful for many, many years, and everyone will think they'll do well again this year because they always do. But I strongly believe that this year they're really going to struggle.
Okay, interesting. Valid, interesting, controversial points there. And what about their bowling strengths?
Again, the bowling is pretty good. It's not as aging as their batting. They do have Imran Tahir, who again is on the verge of retirement. But otherwise, they've got a pretty good bowling attack. Ravinder Jadeja's, transformed his career for the national team over the last few years. So I think he's going to be a gun player for them with the ball, the bat, and in the field. They've got Deepak Jahar again, plays for the national team now. Only been on the scene for the last couple of years for the national team, but he's really, really impressed. Tahir again, he's been playing in the CPL and he had some success there, so he'll be match ready. Whereas a lot of the other players won't be match ready. They wouldn't have played any competitive cricket for a long while. And Shardul Thakur as well is decent Indian bowler. So overall, I think they've got a pretty good bowling attack. Obviously, they're missing Budgie, which will be a big loss. Even though he's another one who's retired, but they'll be missing him, which will be a big loss. And I forgot to mention the batting Suresh Raina as well. The biggest loss, I think, of any player that's dropped out in any IPL team. He's recently retired, but a class player, and he sort of carried CSK for so many years with the bat, always at the top of the run scoring averages. But overall, I think their bowling is decent. They've got really good backups as well. They signed Sam Curran this year, who was playing at Punjab, I think last year, and again he's been playing for England, all summer. So he'll be one to start with. I think he's completely match ready. He's been bowling very well, and of course he can hit with the bat as well. So very, very good bowling side, CSK.
Yeah, and Meher, Akshay's mentioned some really big names there. An ageing squad, but despite that, who do you think the key players are then, in your opinion?
The foreign players, especially someone like Faf du Plessis or Shane Watson, because over the matches, over the the time in the league, when the matches get closer to the end of the league stage, I think Shane Watson is someone who's always been there, no matter what, if he performs or doesn't perform, because they have this trust factor within the team, and ultimately he gets on and scores a century in the final and ends up winning the league for CSK. So I think Shane Watson is one such player, an impact player. And additionally, I think in the bowling side of things, someone like Sam Curran, Josh Hazlewood, Mitchell Santner. Someone like Mitchell Santner can definitely, adapt to the UAE conditions because he's already bowling slow in normal pitches. I still remember what happened against India versus New Zealand semi-final, where he took some crucial wickets in the middle overs just because of the slowness of his bowling. So I think he's one crucial player that will turn out to be very handy for CSK.
Okay, and do you agree with Akshay that the biggest weakness of CSK is the age, or would you say there's another weakness there?
It is a weakness, I do agree, but I think they will use this as an opportunity. They also know that this is like one of the ending years for the squad. So I think they'll use this as an opportunity to sign off on a good note. Okay.
That's optimism right there. I like that. So now we're going to move on to Royal Challengers Bangalore. So in 2019, they finished 8th. They got 5 wins and a washout. So in terms of batting, they obviously have been really heavily reliant on Kohli and AB de Villiers. And especially, I guess, since 2017, when Chris Gayle left, it's been more so, overly reliant on those two. But this year's exciting because they've signed Aaron Finch, and he could sort of free up Kohli to bat maybe at his preferred number 3 slot. We'll have to see. So let's talk about their youngsters now. So there's Shivam Dubey, Washington Sundar, Navdeep Saini, and they've all regularly started appearing in T20Is for India. And that could be a good thing. That could added confidence could kind of, it could work wonders for the RCB squad this season. Naresh, what do you think about that?
It's a good side, honestly, Isha. It's a little unfair they end up number 8 last year, but it's a very good side. As you said, Aaron Finch coming in, and I think they signed Chris Morris. Yeah. So I think that's kind of getting a balance in. What's going to be important is how he uses Dale Steyn. Initially, I think probably couple of games you would see Dale Steyn play. It's the later half you will see Chris Morris come in because of the slowness of the pitch, and Morris is a good all-rounder in between. One batsman you will have to look out for is Devdutt Padikul, a left-hander. extremely hard-hitting batsman. And that's going to free up Virat Kohli, as you said, number 3, or probably even if he opens up, you have Devdutt coming at 3 and AB at 4, or the other way around. So what he needs to decide is whether he wants to play Parthiv Patel or AB de Villiers as a keeper. So that is something which he needs to work on. But yes, a good start for RCB in the beginning of the league is going to be very important. And that's where Dale Steyn will play an important role to start with. But otherwise, a very, very good side. Very good side. You know, if you have Shivam Dubey also, who's an all-rounder, left-hand batsman, it's a very good side.
Okay. And actually, just moving on from those key players, who would you say the key players are, in your opinion, for RCB this season?
Yeah, I think, RCB have always been a bit of an enigma in the sense that, they've had such a star-studded lineup for so many years, but they've never, ever won anything or even looked like coming close to winning anything. So it's always been an enigma. I think their failures over the years have come with their bowling. We all know they've got the batting, with Kohli and ABD. They've had Gale in the past. This year, I think Finch is a big coup because he's been playing against England over here in the UK over the last month or so. But I think their bowling has really improved. So as you said, Saini is a young bowler, but before they'd have lots of young, inexperienced bowler. But Saini now is an experienced bowler. He's been playing in the Indian side. He's been bowling really, really well. So he'll have confidence coming into this IPL. But, he's one of the main guys now. He was going to probably be close to a call-up for the Australia T20 World Cup if that was to go ahead. So he's there or thereabouts with the big boys of Indian cricket. Alongside Umesh, he's had his ups and downs throughout his career. He can be expensive, but he's a wicket taker ultimately. And I think one of the key guys would be Yuzvendra Chahal. Everyone's talking about UAE being spinning pitches. And Chahal's been the main man for India with the white ball for so many years. So there's a lot of pressure on him to sort of step up and be the main man for RCB, especially in the conditions that are going to be there in the UAE. So he's going to have a lot of pressure on his shoulders to sort of lead the attack with the spin option. And Washington Sundar as well, played for India a few times, decent batsman, good off spinner. So I think that pair of Sundar and Chahal can really do some damage to batting lineups all over the IPL. But as Naresh said, Steyn will be key. He's coming towards the twilight years of his career now, but he's still one of the best bowlers the world's ever seen. So he'll be really, really important. And Morris, I think, is a big loss for Delhi coming to RCB. He's a great death bowler, really good batsman. And he's a guy that I think any side would want in their team. So I think to sort of fix their bowling woes over the years, Morris will be key.
Okay. So you've mentioned how they've sort of filled the void or perhaps the problem areas they've had in previous seasons. But in the current state they're in at the moment, what would you say is their biggest weakness going into this season, apart from the reputation for being unsuccessful in the IPL?
Yeah, I think they've still got a problem with their middle order. I think their top order is very, very strong with Finch, Padikkal, Kohli and ABD. But I think that number 5, 6, 7 batting order is still a weak point for them. I don't think they have really a gun player. It'll be the likes of Moeen, Shivam Dubey, Washington Sundar is what I think their 5, 6, 7 might be. Shivam Dubey, yeah, he's played for India, but he never set the world on fire. I think he's an okay cricketer, but he's a lot weaker than some of the other middle orders in the IPL. So I do worry for RCB that if they were to lose 2 or 3 quick wickets at the start, they may not be able to claw it back.
Interesting. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the Kolkata Knight Riders. And I guess we can't really speak about KKR without obviously mentioning the X Factor in their middle order, their main man, Andre Russell. He was player of the series last year. And what's more exciting is that this year, joining him in the middle order will be Owen Morgan. I'm so excited to see them in action. I guess the burden of spin bowling, it's going to be on Sunil Narayan and Kuldeep Yadav because Piyush Chawla is no longer around. But it could give Kuldeep Yadav the opportunity to shine. We'll have to see. I guess it's been 6 years. KKR haven't had an IPL title. But funnily enough, the last time they came to the UAE at the start of 2014, they ended it as champions. So I'm sure they're hoping for like a similar fate in these conditions. Also, Andre Russell, he's hit the biggest 6 in the history of it was at the Dubai International Stadium today, and it was just 4 rows away from making it out the ground. So I feel like if he's batting, if he can smash records like that, then they're definitely onto a winner. Abhishek, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's KKR's year this year, if I'm being honest with you. I think they've done really well in the auction. I think I'm looking forward to watching Shubman Gill bat at the top of the order this year. I think he's been held back previously, and now that Chris Lynn has made the transfer to Mumbai, I think it's, as an Indian fan, you can't ask for anything better. I really want to see him let loose at the top. I think he'll be fantastic. And then you've got Sunil Narayan partnering him at the top of the order as well, who's got a great record in the IPL, and obviously gives optionality with the ball as well. And then in the middle order, they've got the likes of DK, very experienced, and also Owen Morgan, who is in the form of his life, as you mentioned. I think with him coming into the side to complement Russell in the middle order, I think, they could be quite unstoppable. So in terms of their batting, they look really, really strong. And I think, they'll be one to watch this year, definitely.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was thrilled when I heard about Owen Morgan heading there. I was like, okay, they could definitely create some magic. Meher, do you agree? Do you think the 2 key players this year for them will be Andre Russell and Morgan?
Yeah, definitely. Interesting that you mentioned Morgan, because I feel Owen Morgan should be the captain of Kolkata Knight Riders and not Dinesh Karthik, which might not, which is something that might not majorly all fans would agree. But I feel that he's got the X factor. He's won England the ODI World Cup as well, 2019. So I think, and he's smart. He knows how to play around with his fielders, with his bowlers, everything. So I think that's one factor. But again, there's also additionally, if you see that Owen Morgan is one player who can still get in close in touch with someone like Dinesh Karthik and just talk about the fields, maybe talk about the batting order, or at least have his involvement somewhere. So I still feel that, Owen Morgan and Andre Russell, both big hitters. But if Kolkata Knight Riders wants to win the IPL, then the team will have to, the overall performance will be really important for the team.
And where do you think their problem areas are in the squad at the moment?
I think it is the domestic lineup, the Pacers. Pat Cummins, obviously, they have paid a heavy price for him, so he will have to deliver. He will have to demonstrate his performance, his capabilities. But apart from that, Shivam Mavi, Prasidh Krishna, they are slightly inexperienced. They are talented, no doubt about that, but they are slightly inexperienced to function with someone like Pat Cummins.
Interesting. Okay. Now we're going to move on to Sunrisers Hyderabad. So David Warner is back as captain for this season, and they actually won their maiden IPL title under his captaincy in 2016. So it'll be interesting to see if, I don't know, a bit of nostalgia can work wonders for them. And Warner, I mean, he leads by example, he's a brilliant leader, fantastic batsman. And last season, his partnership with Johnny Bairstow, it was just sensational. Like, they broke so many records. I think they smashed their way to the highest opening partnership in IPL history. So I guess they have a lethal top order, and then their deadly spin duo of Mohammed Nabi and Rashid Khan. I would be surprised if they didn't reach at least top 4 contention. What do you think, Abhishek?
Yeah, I think they've got some very strong areas. As you mentioned, their top order is pretty fantastic. Warner and Bairstow were brilliant last year in the IPL, had a great partnership at the top. And then you've got Kane Williamson coming in after that if, one of those two doesn't, perform. So, they've also got a very good backroom staff. I think I rate Tom Moody pretty highly as a sort of limited overs coach. I think he's had a really good influence on the team in the last few years. But I think where they might sort of fall down is their strength of the Indian contingent, which is very important in the IPL. I would weight it more heavily that you need a good Indian contingent in comparison to your overseas players, because, the overseas players, obviously, you can only have 4 of them, and also they're more widely available. I think everyone's got pretty strong overseas players across the board, but I think the inexperience in the middle order of Sunrisers might prove costly. I think you've got Vijay Shankar and Ridhiman Saha, who, whilst they're sort of, solid domestic players, I think they probably won't be as strong as some of the other Indian middle orders that you've got with other teams. So I think if the top order fails of Sunrisers in a few games in a row, there could be in a little bit of trouble. It's a bit of over-reliance there. However, I would say that balances out quite well with their bowling attack. I do think bowling attack is probably one of the strongest in the competition. So they're really going to have to deliver. You've got the likes of Bhuvaneshwar and Rashid Khan, who's, I think, the best spinner in the world right now. He's got so many variations. The conditions in Dubai will suit him down to the ground. So I think that, yeah, they're very heavily reliant on their top order and their bowling. I think where they're going to come into a bit of issue is probably their middle order.
Naresh, do you agree with that?
Yes, I do. And I think I should have mentioned it earlier. The issue with all Indian players is the long gap they've had in between. The 6 months, no match practice. They all are going to be a little, rusty compared to a lot of overseas players who have played some cricket before.
Oh, look at England this week.
Yeah, I mean, Bairstow has just got 100 now. So, as far as Hyderabad, Manish Pandey, he needs to become a very critical part of the lineup. Can't keep Williamson out. So I think what David Warner, the problem he will have, which are going to be the 4 overseas players, or rather 3 besides he himself. Williamson, Warner himself, Bairstow in form, Rashid Khan. So if Rashid Khan plays, Nabi doesn't get a chance in, So that's where Manish Pandey, Vijay Shankar especially in the bowling side, needs to step up. Priyank Garg, I think he led the Indian team to the under-19. We need to watch out for him. I think he'll get a play-in for sure for Hyderabad in the middle order. So it's a well-balanced side. Bhuvaneshwar Kumar probably will be seen in action after more than a year. So that's going to be a little tricky. Obviously, he's going to spearhead the bowling. They have Khalil as a left-arm medium pacer. So variety is there. Very consistent side, very good record. But I feel they may have a little slow start to the IPLs. I think Australian and English cricketers would start a little later in the week. So they might miss out the first game.
Yeah, interesting. Well, now we're going to move on to Delhi Capitals. So they finished 3rd last season, and they had one problem area, in my opinion. They were a little inexperienced in their lower middle order, but they've made some promising additions in the auction. They've got Alex Carey, Shimron Hetmeyer, Marcus Stoinis. So I think the solid balance now, it has the potential to be pretty formidable, in my opinion. Akshay, do you agree?
Yeah, well, I think they're the team to beat. I think, in my opinion, they're going to be the team that will lift the trophy this year. And there's a couple of reasons. There's a couple of reasons why I think that. And I know they haven't really looked too dangerous in previous IPLs, but this year I think they've recruited really, really well. And there's 2 things that I think put them in good stead. Number one, the homegrown talent is, for me, the best out of all of the IPL teams. They've got such amazing Indian players, and they're all nationals now. So Shikhar Dhawan, international plays for India. Prithvi Shaw broken into the India team. Shreyas Iyer used to be a junior, but now he's dubbed to be the next captain of India. He's taken that number 4 position for Team India with 2 hands. So he's a really experienced cricketer now. Rishabh Pant as well. He was destructive back in 2017. And the second reason I think that they'll do really, really well is everyone's dubbing these pitches to be very, very spin friendly in the UAE. And they've got such a good sort of host of spin bowling. They can pick 4 spinners in the side, and I think they'll still win games. They've got the likes of Ravi Ashwin, arguably, the best spinner that India have had in the last 10 years, 15 years. So that experience will certainly help. They've got Amit Mishra as well, Akshar Patel, and they've got a little spinkin from Nepal called Lami Shan. Really, really good leg spinner. And I think that the combination of the homegrown talent, the spin options that they've got, as well as the overseas players like Hetmeyer, Stoinis, Rabada, arguably one of the best bowlers in the world at the moment, alongside Jasprit Bumrah, and they've got a couple of young overseas players that have sort of looked really, really good over the last year or so. Alex Carey for Australia, big hitter down the middle order. And Kemo Paul, who played well in the CPL, has broken into the West Indian team as well. So good lower order batsman and medium pace bowler. So I think they're the team to beat.
Abhishek, do you agree with that?
I wouldn't say I agree completely. No, I think obviously they've got a lot of promising talent in their batting lineup. but I think that could also potentially be somewhere where they might fall down. So, you've got Rishabh Pant, Shreyas Iyer, Prithvi Shaw. As an Indian fan, I'll definitely be tuning in to watch Delhi Capitals, probably more eagerly than anyone else, just because of that. And I think it could be exciting, but I just would question, will they have the consistency to consistently, deliver and, fire their team to big scores? We'll have to wait and see. I also think the overseas contingent isn't as strong as some of the other sides. I don't think they have many world-class overseas players, albeit their bowling lineup is quite experienced with, the likes of Ishant and Ravi Ashwin. One world-class player who I think they do have, however, is Kagiso Rabada. So I think he'll be very important with the ball for Delhi. I'm not quite sure that I'll go as far as Akshay in saying that I see them winning it, but I think they could be a wild card to get into the semi-finals, and then you never know from there.
Interesting. Okay. Well, let's move on to Kings 11 Punjab. Akshay, I know this is actually your team, so I'm sure you have good stuff to say about them. There's been some changes at the Kings 11 camp this year. So obviously Anil Kumble is the new head coach. KL Rahul, he's about to embark on his first stint as an IPL captain. Very exciting, fresh challenge for him. Another player I'm really excited to see in action this season is Mayank Agarwal. Now, him and his mate, KL Rahul, I think they're likely to open the batting for Kings 11 Punjab. And I think as an opener, Mayank Agarwal, I think it could be a good opportunity for him to have his breakthrough year. And I don't know where that would leave Chris Gale in the starting 11. We'll have to see. But I have really high hopes for Mayank Agarwal. I just think he's gone from strength to strength since the last IPL season as a batsman. And I do think the Kings 11 lower middle order could be an area for concern, however. Akshay, would you agree with what I'm saying?
I completely agree, actually. As much as I've wanted Kings 11 to win every year, since the IPL started, I've never really thought they've had quite the best team in the tournament. They've never recruited as well as some of the other teams, in my opinion. So, yeah, I completely agree. Top order, really, really good. Who knows how Chris Gale will fare? He didn't play in the CPL just now. He's another year older. Is he the same player as he once was? I'm not sure. I hope he is. But we're about to find out. But I think KL and Agarwal, they'll be key batsmen. KL's in the form of his life at the moment. I hope that continues now. And Agarwal recently broke into the team a couple of years ago, and he's sort of making it his own, certainly in the Test arena. But we all know he's got the credentials to play white ball cricket as well. But as you said, the worry is the middle order. They do have Nicholas Puran, who again played in the CPL, really big hitter of the ball, clean hitter of the ball, and plays for the West Indies. So he's sort of the lifeline in the middle order now. Maxwell as well is here for Punjab this year. And he's always been sort of hit and miss. A few years ago, he was the main man for Punjab, but he's sort of lost his way a little in the IPL. And even internationally for Australia, he's not quite the same player as he once was. So, I'm really hoping that he gets his swagger back a bit and cements his place in the middle order. And that will be key. If we can get Maxwell starting and hitting the ball out the boundary like we know he can, then that would be really, really important. But I do think that Punjab do have a pretty strong bowling attack. Mohammed Shami is one of the most important players in the India side at the moment. The last couple of years, with the white ball and the red ball, actually, he's been, spearheading our attack with Jasprit Bumrah. So I think his pace and his bounce that he'll get in Dubai will be really, really important. But there's a spin king called Mujib from Afghanistan. I don't know how much. Yeah, he's amazing. I don't know how much cricket you saw in the CPL, but I think he was a top wicket taker. And I think he's another year experience now. He's only a young guy, so he's learning every single year. And he's impressed from the little amount I've seen of him so far in the IPL. But I was watching him quite closely in the CPL and his variations. I think he must have been learning from Rashid Khan in the Afghanistan camp. But he's very, very good. So on those pitches in the UAE, like Mujib, who's just come off the back of being the top wicket taker in the Caribbean, will certainly be someone that will be there or thereabouts in the wicket-taking league rankings in the IPL.
So, Abhishek, who would you say are your key players for Kings 11 Punjab? Who have you got your eye on this season?
I think they're going to have to rely a lot on KL Rahul with the batting. Akshay's mentioned how important he's going to be. And I think Mohammed Shami and Chris Jordan with the ball, I think will be very, very important. I know, UAE for going to be spin friendly, but I think they'll have quite a lot of responsibility on their shoulders. So I'm not sure, guys, who's pulling the strings for Punjab behind the scenes, but I feel that they've never really recruited well. Akshay mentioned this season he didn't feel they've done well in the auction. I completely agree. I just think the balance is too heavily in favour for their overseas players, and you can only play 4 of them. They've got so many very quality overseas players. They've got the likes of Neesham, they've got the likes of Maxwell, Chris Gale, Chris Jordan. They've got
Sheldon Cottrell as well.
Sheldon Cottrell, yeah. I could probably name about 7 or 8 actually, but I don't have them all at the top of my head. But I think the point there is obviously, they can't play all of them, and I think the weakness in their Indian players in the squad is going to come to bite them in the end, I think. And that's why I think KL Rahul and Shami are going to have to the flag for the Indian contingent. But I don't see Punjab doing really well this year because of that reason.
Interesting. Well, now we're going to move on to Rajasthan Royals. So they had, I guess it's an understatement, they had an underwhelming season last year. They finished 7th. They only got 5 wins and they lost 8 matches. And one of the matches ended as a no result. And then due to the poor performances midway through the tournament, they changed their captain from Ajinkya Rahane to Steve Smith. But let's look ahead. It's a fresh season. And under Steve Smith's captaincy, I think, they also have a new head coach. They have Andrew McDonald. Their fortunes could change, Things have changed up. They've retained Smith, Jofra Archer, who is doing brilliantly at the moment, as we've seen over the past week. Jos Buttler, Shreyas Gopal, Ben Stokes, Sanju Samson. With all these names, surely they can't have another disappointing season. I'm personally expecting an explosive comeback. Naresh, what do you think? Do you agree?
Yes, but I think Steve Smith, little lean patch. He didn't do well in the T20s against England. He's not there in the one-dayers. But yes, IPL is a different ball game. He's going to lead the team. I think they got a good buy in Robin Uthappa. So they'll have a good opening pair if Uthappa and Samson open. Yes, Jos Buttler also a little bit of a lean patch. He's not been scoring currently. So I think Steve Smith and Jos Buttler have definitely something to prove when they start off, including Ben Stokes. He hasn't played much cricket since last 2-3 weeks. So, but overall a good side, but will they go on 14 games as a unit? That's a bit of a concern in that side. Yes, they have some youngsters. Jaiswal, Yashasvi Jaiswal, he's done well for under-19 and India A. There is Parag. There's one Parag player who's done well last year. So there'll be a lot of focus on these youngsters in this side. They really do well when they form the team with a lot of youngsters. Unatkar will continue to be their spearhead bowler, left arm bowler. So. And they have Mayank Makande as the spinner. He did well for Mumbai before he was released. Good side, but the concern is whether they'll go on all the 14 games to consistently do well.
All right. So Meher, Naresh seems to think that they look good on paper for sure, but whether or not they go on to actually prove their worth, and I guess, like you said, with Ben Stokes, Jos Buttler, even Steve Smith, when a player has something to prove, sometimes something just clicks in them and they're like, you know what, we need to show you guys what we're made of. Meher, do you think this is the season for Rajasthan Royals to do that?
As a Royals fan, I think they have a chance to win the IPL, because we earlier spoke about Delhi Capitals being an Indian dominant team with a lot of Indian batsmen, pure Indian batsmen and bowlers. For Rajasthan Royals, I reckon it's the exactly opposite, because of the presence, Ben Stokes, Jos Buttler, Steve Smith, Jofra Archer, Andrew Tye, Tom Curran, all of them currently playing in the Australia-England series as well. So I think in terms of the match intensity, they are ready. They just need to get into the UAE conditions. It won't be easy to adapt, but at least they have match fitness ready. So I feel that's one major strength that Rajasthan Royals has. I don't think many teams have that option of being ready to having that match day awareness. But apart from that, I think this season Rajasthan Royals have figured out the Indian side of things as well. because they've got Manan Vora, who's an excellent batsman, according to me. Plus, they have Yashasvi Jaiswal, as Nadesh mentioned. I think he had a great under-19 World Cup as well. They have Ankit Rajput now, Mayank Markande. So I feel, I think they have the right bowling options as well. So a combination of youngsters as well as foreign players, I think they will gel very well. So Rajasthan Royals have a great chance. I don't think they should miss with the current lineup.
All right. I mean, you are a Rajasthan Royals fan, clearly, and this might be tough for you, but you're going to have to give it to me. What do you think their weaknesses are?
The weaknesses has been consistent, which is the lack of experience in Indian players, because they had Ajinkya Rahane at the top, but clearly it didn't work out for them. But this season they have someone like Robin Uthappa coming in, who's won an orange cap before. They have someone like Andrew Tye, who's won a purple cap before. So I think all of that collectively adds a lot of experience in the lineup as well. Bringing someone like Manan Vora at the top, having Riyan Parag, who's played, who had a great IPL last year. So I think all of that will add a lot of value. And I think that's how they'll have to come over their weaknesses, because that's the Indian side of the Indian players has been a major concern for them every single year.
Interesting. Okay. Well, you guys have had some really varied opinions. So I think moving on to the fun part, this is going to be extra interesting. I want to know, where do you guys think these teams are finishing? Now, Naresh, I'm coming to you first. Give me...
Can I start from the top? Yeah, Mumbai Delhi final.
Oh, okay, right. So who's going to win the final though? Who do you think is coming away with the title?
Would like to have Mumbai win again, but it will be really good for a new team to pick up the trophy.
Okay, so say Mumbai, Delhi. Who do you think will come third?
Tough one. Between Hyderabad and Chennai.
Okay. Who do you think will come fourth then? Either KKR. Hyderabad or Chennai? KKR.
Yeah, and then KKR will be close, yeah. Then
okay. RCB. Oh, okay. RCB. And then after RCB?
Rajasthan and then Punjab.
Oh, does that hurt my head? Interesting. Okay, Meher, what's your predictions for that? Number one, who's coming away with the title?
RCB will be at the top based on what the squad is right now. I think they are ready.
Who, sorry?
RCB.
RCB at the top? What, winning the title?
I think, not the title, I'm talking about the league stage points table. Obviously, yeah. So based on the trophy, Rajasthan Royals will obviously be at the top for me.
Oh, yeah. Sorry for even asking. Yeah, you've already given me that prediction.
Okay, based on that, I feel Rajasthan Royals. Then you have Royal Challengers Bangalore.
Ooh, okay.
And Sunrisers Hyderabad. I think I'm not going to take CSK into this because this 2020 has been an unusual year. So I feel CSK won't even qualify to the playoffs.
Ooh, interesting. Abhishek, what do you think about Meher's predictions? What do you think?
So I think this year, as I mentioned in the run-up preview, I think it's KKR for me is going to be number one.
Okay.
I think the balance between their quality and overseas players and Indian players is unmatched across everyone. Pat Cummins, Owen Morgan, Sunil Narayan, Andre Russell, amazing four overseas players. And then, that complemented with their very strong Indian contingent, Nagarkoti and Mavi, exciting young talent. And then you got Kuldeep and Nitesh Rana, who always does well in the IPL, DK, just so many quality players. I think they're going to be number one for me. Number two, a tough call, but I'm probably going to say Mumbai. I think they know how to get the job done. They've got very strong Indian players. Rohit, probably the strongest alongside Kohli in terms of Indian batsmen. And then you've got Bumrah, the best one-day bowler of all time, maybe, for India by the time he's finished. So I'd say Mumbai, they know how to get it done. I'll go with them for number two. Number three, this is where it gets a little tricky. I'm going to go for Rajasthan Royals. I think they have very, very strong talent. Smith, Archer, And then you've got Stokes and Butler. I just think that's too formidable. I don't see them being inconsistent. So I think they'll sneak into the top 4. And then I'm also going to go with, who's left? I think Sunrisers and Delhi Capitals will be very close. I think it'll be between them for the 4th spot. I'll give it to Delhi on the basis of the fact that I think they've got a better all-round squad. And then for me, the teams who don't make it are Sunrisers. I think they're probably a little bit too weak in terms of their squad depth. Punjab will probably finish bottom. I don't think they have much of a chance. CSK, I don't think are going to do very well this year either, because they've lost a few key players. So yeah, I think that rounds it up for me.
Interesting. Akshay, I saw your face go when you said that about Kings 11. That is not on, surely.
Yeah, I know, but it probably is on, because I actually agree with him. As much as I want them to qualify,
that's the worst,
I just can't. If I'm putting my neutral brain on, completely unbiased, Kings 11 Punjab aren't qualifying. So I think Delhi Capitals are going to win it. All the reasons I said earlier, but I also forgot to mention Ricky Ponting as the coach this year. The guy's a match winner. He's a champion. So I think him in the dressing room will certainly give him a chance at the top of the league table. Hopefully, go on to win it as well. Number 2, I'm backing everything that Abs has said about KKR. I think they've got a quality team, and I think they'll be there or thereabouts. I think Mumbai Indians will qualify. They always seem to be up there. Last year's champions, so I think they'll be sitting at 3rd. And I think 4th could be RCB this year. I think with that death bowling that they've got now, the couple of extra bowlers that they've got with Chris Morris as well, I think they might be able to be a bit more consistent than in previous years. So I'm going to back them to make it to the playoffs. So sadly, the guys that miss out, I think SRH might just miss out for various reasons. You know, Bhuvi, he's although he's the gun bowler, he's a bit undercooked at the moment. I think CSK almost certainly will miss out. So they'll probably finish around 6th or 7th. And the bottom 2 is for me, Kings 11 Punjab. I'm not going to put them as bottom because I'm just not going to do that. So me here, sadly, I'm putting Rajasthan Royals as bottom. Again, on paper, they've got a really good team. But, you know, a lot of these guys have been in the side for previous years and they've just never done it. So Rajasthan, for me, sadly, finishing at the bottom of the table.
Okay, interesting. I think what you mentioned earlier about this season being probably the most competitive, you know, sort of season, and I think because it's so anticipated, some players are coming off, you know, they've got great momentum on international duty. Some players haven't played for months. So I'm just going into the season thinking, you know what, expect the unexpected. Yeah. Maybe a few games in, we'll sort of get a better idea. But right now, you just don't know. I would love if one of you were correct, though. So we'll have to revisit this at the end of the season to see who got the predictions right.
Yeah.
Guys, thanks so much for sharing your views with me. That's about it. I loved hearing your views, no matter how controversial or contradictory they were to each other. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Thanks, Isha.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And IPL fans who are listening, we want to hear from you. What are your predictions this IPL season? Comment below. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you like and you share it. Remember to subscribe from wherever you're listening and watching, because we have so much more fun IPL content coming up. Isn't that right, Akshay?
100%. Loads of stuff.
So much stuff coming, and because none of you are able to go and watch the games, we expect you to be in front of your laptop or your phone just intently watching everything we're bringing for you. So make sure you subscribe for that. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you soon. ये दोस्ती हम नहीं